Like there was a time when I was with Teresa, and we were driving up the block on Elizabeth Ave out here in Newark, and somebody had got we saw a guy pass away after he had gotten crushed by a truck, right? What ended up happening was is there was a driver, right? And this was right before another funny thing, there's a snowstorm now, right? There was a snowstorm, and what ended up happening was they were trying to move before the snowstorm started the truck, and so the owner of the company, was a factory, a small factory on Elizabeth Ave. He told the driver to move one of the trailers. So he went. The guy went into the cab of the truck, right? And the owner was behind the truck. They didn't have like a glass divider, in the back of the truck, like a partition or whatever it is,
Mhm.
where you could see behind him. And the guy was behind the truck, and he backed up, and the guy was between the trailer and the truck, and the he ended up getting pinned in between the wheels and the trailer. Right, I wasn't there when the actual thing happened or whatever, and so the guy gets out his car, sees him. This is the information we ended up finding out after the fact, because I'll tell you when we got there, what happened. But the guy got pinned in between the truck. The driver saw it, moved the truck, and then pulled it back out. And the guy was now underneath the trailer, laying on the floor. Right. So the guy's panicking, I guess, at this point. He runs outside, and Teresa and I just finished going shopping early in the morning before we were going to take my son to school. This was super early because she was supposed to go to work, and they told her that she didn't have to come in, because she worked at a pharmacy, Rite Aid or whatever at the time. And they didn't. She didn't have to do truck, which is basically bringing the stuff in for the store. And I don't mean to bring up stories too much, but it's an interesting thing because I
No.
felt like I was in an environment, and the police looked at us and they questioned us for a second, wondering why we were there and what exactly happened. And I felt like, God forbid I was in an environment trying to help someone, and I was the only person there. You know what I mean? It's not the same thing as a shooting. You know what I mean? I don't want to compare it to a shooting, but
Yeah.
I felt like, like you could be put in a position where something can happen, and you might not have been there. You might have been there to help. You might have been there for whatever, and the whole story could be like, swung, around, do a 180 or whatever it is, and you could be blamed for something. But so the guy got, basically pinned in, and he died of internal bleeding. But when we got there, he was still alive, and he passed away. We were trying to keep him alive until the ambulance came. They took like 20 minutes or whatever it was, to get there. The police came first, and then the ambulance came, and it was already too late at that point. The guy had passed away in front of Teresa and I. And and the guy was panicking, and all they were trying to do was like the right thing to help, um, you know, do some work and then go home, and before the storm. And that day, Teresa and I, we didn't understand how we got there and was put in that situation. It was like a kind of shocking moment. I've seen people pass away. I've seen a guy get murdered before, and a bunch of other things happen in my life where I've seen, random dead bodies and things happen. So I'm kind of like desensitized with a lot of the, stuff. So I wasn't as, it wasn't as traumatic for me, but for her, it was kind of rough for a while. She didn't understand like how we ended up in a situation where we were just driving home, with the intentions were to go take my son to school if he had school, because it was going to snowstorm. He ended up, I think, he ended up staying home. Did he stay home that day? I don't even remember. But I know that, you know, because of all that stuff, we ended up picking him up early. That's what ended up happening. They took him to school, and then it started getting bad, and then we had to go pick him up from school afterwards. But either or, it's just like when you're in an environment and things like that, crazy stuff happens. Um, like you don't know, like who's gonna interpret what in what way, and you can get in trouble for just being there. You know what I mean? And like we were there for like two
Mhm.
hours talking to them. You know what I mean? Like good 2 hours, talking to them. So it was awkward. Like, and it's some of that stuff is kind of scary. Even with the shooting that we had seen out here or whatever, and the guy dying or whatever it was, the police came to our house and was trying to get questions and information from us, and we only saw what we saw, and we told them, we're like, this is what we saw and blah blah blah, and that was that. But it was like, I felt like they want to get information so much that it's kind of intimidating sometimes. Like you don't know what direction they're going to take it. Like it's like, I don't want to compare it because it's not the same. You know what I mean? But
No, but
it's
there's similar. There's similar stories in there. The idea of how much I don't want to say that criminal justice reform that needs to happen. It's more like it's so easy to get caught up in a situation,
yep, 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 yep,
and that's more of what you're speaking on, is that you can get really caught up in a situation.
yep, yep, yep. And you know, like in people like him, for instance, that's horrible, man. 18 years. That's horrible. I'm sure there's plenty of people in plenty of states. I when I was younger, I think I told you the story too. I went up to what is it Washington Heights, 160 something street with a friend, and they tried to pin a gun on me. They separated us. The guy pulled a revolver and asked me to take it. You know, one of the police officers. And I was like, I'm not touching. I was a young kid. I was like, I'm not touching that. This is like I think around the Giuliani years or whatever it was. And I was like, I'm not taking it. I'm not taking it. And then like he literally talked to me for a couple of minutes and then just let us go. And to this day, I don't know what his intentions were. I don't know what was wrong with that gun. If he shot somebody or somebody he knew shot somebody, or he just wanted to pin somebody with a gun. I don't know what the hell it was, but I've been through some crazy stuff involving cops when I was younger, and it's scary, and just people in general. Like you could walk down the street and somebody could say they saw somebody that looked like you, and you can get arrested for it. You know what I mean? Like a guy, a black person or a Spanish person or whoever it is that fits your description. No, that was him. That was him. But you just came from working out at the gym or something. You know what I mean? You don't. It's crazy, man. It's scary, and I feel like I don't know if he's guilty or not, but I know that I've been in situations where it's possible that he just was at the wrong place at the wrong time. And I don't know the details of his story enough for me to say that what to believe or not to believe, but I just nowadays I
So
just
I'm gonna even throw a weird progressive angle at this. Is that
yeah,
he was a minor when it happened. He was
yeah,
17 when this happened, and let's assume guilt for an instant.
yeah,
As a model, it, since he did not shoot her intentionally,
yeah,
that would be probably a homicide too, and most likely you'd get 15 to 20 years. He was given a life sentence
yep,
for
yep,
this,
yep,
so them commuting the charge seems to be the most natural occurrence that could happen. Like, it's 18 years, it's about 15 to 20 years, most likely just assuming his guilt, not even assuming, because I assume that he was probably there. He probably wasn't the one who shot the gun, but he was
yeah,
probably around. But
yeah,
that's an assumption too.
yeah,
So, but after 18 years, yes, if you're a minor, you can't be. I don't agree with them being charged as adults without having malicious intent.
yeah. What I don't like about the whole court system thing is that they want you to plead guilty to get less time. You know what I mean? Like in certain situations, like if we have to go to court, we're gonna charge you with blah 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 blah. So it's like, okay, well, either I say I'm guilty and I spend less time in jail, because I say I'm guilty, which maybe I'm not guilty. You know what I'm saying? Versus saying, okay, I want to go to court and fight for this and get screwed, even though you might have been innocent. You know what I mean? And that's I think that whole thing needs to be reformed. Like it's not really fair. Like either it's got to be you're gonna get charged for this and that's it. You know what I mean? Either if you're guilty, you're gonna get charged X Y Z. If you're innocent, you would have been charged for X Y Z. That's it. You know what I mean? It's not if you do this, you get a lesser sentence than if you do this. You know what I mean? That's what, because I wasted your time, now I deserve more time. That's bull. You know what I mean? Like if I'm innocent, I'm gonna
But you
fight
didn't
for it.
waste their time. I'm gonna even tell you that that's part of the. I wouldn't call it a scam, but it's part of the pyramid scheme. Is that you're actually giving the police more hours, most likely. So it's not the police that are suffering,
Yep.
it's not the lawyers that are suffering, because most likely, unless you're a public defender, which is possible, if you're a public defender, this doesn't help you. You're gonna get paid
Yep.
for your time. As a prosecutor, you know specifically what you're going after usually, and you have access to the police at the same time. So you already have a step up on the individual who's going to trial.
Yep.
And I
Yep.
think that's the hardest thing to understand, because in some ways it's an abuse of the system that you can kind of stack the jury a certain way. You kick people off the jury that, might be more sympathetic pretty early on, things like that. All of that happens all at once, and you have less of ability to control that as a defense attorney. You you're basically there for the ride, knowing that a lot of people will get rejected from the jury, or that you won't have discovery until after the prosecution does. Most likely, all of that police discovery happened already, and the prosecutor has it. It doesn't have to divulge any information until a specific point in the case. That happens quite often, and though it's not a surprise, it's just more that you have you're on the defensive. You're literally on the defensive all the time, right?
Yep, 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 yep. It's like, what do you
And
do, right? But I'm listening. No,
what
I
do
was
you
just,
do? You
yep,
you no, no, I mean, what do you do? I mean, you literally just keep trying to petition the system to work properly and to keep talking about criminal justice reform. I think that's the only thing that we can do, and I'm a little worried that under any of the administrations that we see so far, I don't see significant change on criminal justice reform.
yep,
The AG for New York seems a little bit interested in it. Maybe individual attorney generals from different states will care about it enough to start working on it. But I mean, I'll be honest, without the Black Lives Matter movement, I think it would have fallen away. I don't think we would have thought about this right now. The executions, when we talked about the executions a couple weeks ago, now I've seen 4 articles on it that he is the most federal executions in years.
yep, yep.
Um, and I'm not saying that we were like ahead of the curve, but
What
the
do you think
fact that
about
only democracy now.
what do you think about Biden? You think
Oh,
Biden's gonna like stop doing that type of stuff, or do you think he's gonna follow in?
yes, I think he's going to follow in Obama's suit, where you don't federally execute anyone for that period of time. I think he doesn't have to hold a strongman position at all. Like, he doesn't have to be, I'm the strong president here. He can have a 4-year administration and just leave.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think it's with his principles to not have federal executions.
Hmm.